And so it came as a shock to me, and I really couldn't even comprehend it. I'm still like struggling to comprehend what the hell's going on. The fact that Coach Saban is no longer coaching, not just at Alabama, but coaching in football in general.
What's going on, guys? We're back. Episode number 2. Today is January 24th, 2024. We hope that your 2024 is off to a hot and steamy start. Been dealing with some really rough weathers up here in New York City. Tommy's down here in Philadelphia, so probably getting the same type of weather. It's been like severely lows,
so
like
cold.
around 20.
So cold. Yeah, and we got snow last week too, and it was freezing and single digits. It wasn't fun. But now it's getting a little bit warmer. All the snow is melting, so that's nice.
Yeah, like I just bought new shoes, New Balances to go out because I usually
newbies. What?
New Balances.
What?
I don't know.
Let me see.
They're like running shoes. If I had them right next to me, I'd show you them. But
I'm a big fan.
Shoes.
I'm a big fan of New Balance. I like New Balance.
Yeah, like workout wise.
Yeah,
do you work out with them? Or you just like
no,
fashion.
Yeah, no, I don't work out that often. I actually did hit the treadmill yesterday morning. I was gonna send you a little because you put up the but you gotta stack days. You can't just one day is not gonna come on.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in one day.
Exactly, and you can't just be sending pictures out to people like, hey, look at me, so.
Yeah.
No, but I do enjoy. I have a pair of 550s that I rock out in town every now and then. So yeah, I like New Balance. Good brand.
Yeah, I was just looking outside. Yeah, like you said, the snow's melting now, so I can wear the New Balances outside. So I had these Hokas. They're old, so I ran outside a couple of days this week. But I wore the Hokas so that my New Balances didn't get dirty yet. It's a slow process, right? So it's a slow process to get your new, clean, fresh shoes outside and then dirty. So
it's like that. There's like that. I don't know what the word is, but like, I guess like barrier. I don't know. You cross that like dirtiness with your shoes, and you're just like,
you're just like, fuck it.
Yeah, like all right, here we go. Now I'm just gonna wear them wherever. But yeah, I just like to wear my shoes. I don't get caught up in all that nonsense,
Yeah. Were you ever one of those people who like had white Air Forces and just like walked like a penguin to not get them to crease?
Never. I never had white Air Forces growing up. I was always like the basketball shoe kid. I always had like D Roses and
got it.
I don't know, just whatever, like KDs, like whatever big basketball shoe was big at the time. I think I had like LeBrons at the time. So yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, let me pause my notifications on Slack so I'm not getting work comments, but appreciate everyone for tuning back in this week. There's never, ever, we're never going to be short of topics to discuss when it comes to sports, college sports, transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, professional sports even, and then everything that we're doing at MOGL. So this week we really have a few exciting topics to cover. One is including Coach Nick Saban's retirement. We have a really special guest for you guys this week to discuss a little bit in depth and behind the scenes into what it's like playing for someone like him. And then there was so much going on within the transfer portal and Ohio State spending roughly $15 million, right, to get the roster and retain talent that they want to retain. So, they're hoping to beat Michigan next year. And then Caitlin Clark's flop. But go ahead, sorry.
You see Harbaugh is probably going to leave, too. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Saw that. We can touch on that as well. But and then some CJ Stroud news within NIL, and then I really want to talk and discuss and dive into the federal hearing last week that took place. Working with a bill that was proposed by Subcommittee Chair Bilirakis. So let's dive in, right? Nick Saban, retirement. How about it?
Shocking. I was not ready for it. I didn't think that. I literally think on our last podcast, I said that he was going to coach for 8 more years or something to that effect. So
Yeah.
I'm shocked, and I think that I speak for everybody when I say that. I think everybody was shocked. What do you thoughts?
I think I was shocked, but I also think I just you kind of feel like his body language and his tone, like, and then the way he was like portrayed in the media seemed more like lighthearted for the last 12 months. Right?
He's going on McAfee show now. Like that is like very
He was on TV a little bit more, I think, within the last year or two. And then you kind of just saw he was reacting to games, whether it was a loss or win, and I don't know. I was definitely surprised, but I definitely maybe less than other people because I just kind of had a small inkling, if that he was kind of content, right, with where he was at, and he was getting older, and I don't know. He's like almost 80 years old, or he's like low 70s at least, which is crazy to think that he's been doing it so long and at such a high level. But to your point, like I could have easily seen him.
Yeah, he's 72. But
easily seen him coaching for the next 10 years. Someone like a Bill Belichick, right? Like it's just in their blood, in their veins, and it's really all they know.
Yeah, exactly. Like it seems like a person that would have like nothing else, like no other move. Like he's not. I mean, obviously he's in commercials and. He owns
like 7 dealerships, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So people are always just like, sorry. People are always saying, "Oh, he's got money. He's got plenty of. He doesn't even need to coach anymore, especially with all that." So, I mean, it makes total sense. But he's a total football guy through and through. I mean, you see those speeches, all the motivational speeches coming out now, and it's just like he loved it. He loved every second of it, and that's kind of why I always imagined that he would just be Alabama's coach forever. So,
yeah, I don't really know another Alabama, right? Like I don't know Alabama.
This year is crazy. It's like all these coaches retiring. You got Kelsey retiring. It's like all these monumental changes. I mean, Kelsey didn't officially announce it, but that's what's everyone is speculating. But it's just all these massive. My whole life I've grown up around all of these coaches and these players, and it's a lot of change in the world of sports. It's crazy.
Who was it? It was Bill Belichick leaving New England. It was Saban retiring, and then it was
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, right, retiring as well, and then Jason Kelsey, and maybe even Travis Kelsey. We're getting rumblings about, right? This could be his last year, but who knows, man?
Really?
That kid's got a lot of ball left in him. So that kid, look at me talking like that kid. But yeah, I mean, you can't believe everything that you see on social media. But like, there were rumblings, and like, I think some guys are really starting to recognize the toll that obviously football takes on your body mentally more than anything else. And some guys are just like, all right, I've been there, done that, won Super Bowls. Got to my second or third contract, and kind of just doesn't, but
you've done everything that you need to do. Like what else? Especially when you're Travis, you're like, yeah. I mean, if you want to be, I mean, Mahomes, it's like, all right, you're going after like Brady, but like at Travis Kelsey, like what do you have to chase? Like Gronk? Like I don't know. Like you have personal stats that you want to go after, I guess. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
but.
Back to Coach Saban, a phenomenal coach, obviously spectacular career, the epitome of what coaching looks like, especially when you talk about just leadership style and getting a group of men to, want to achieve one simple goal, right? One goal of winning a championship and graduating from their school. So I obviously have one dear friend, right, Minka Fitzpatrick, who was I guess you could say, disciple of Nick Saban, right, and kind of followed every step that he laid down at the program down in Alabama. And I just think, again, like we don't know any other Alabama program without Nick Saban, so it's going to be so interesting seeing, if they can ever achieve anything near what they've been able to achieve these last 15 years.
Yeah. It is true. And now we can kind of move into them hiring DeBoer, right? You bring in DeBoer, hiring from Washington. What do you think that looks like? Do you think recruiting stays the same? Obviously, they're bringing guys in from Washington.
Yeah.
Like how does
there's been such conversations around that, right? Like what is the reception of the current guys, right, in Alabama? This guy's so offensive minded, where I think Nick Saban was a defensive minded guy. Spent time in the defensive room. He coached defensive backs. And I think with DeBoer, you're getting somebody who's going to really focus on the offense and opening up and airing it out. Because you've obviously seen what they've done at Washington for the past 2 years with his leadership and the numbers they've been able to put up there, right? So I think you got guys like Caleb Downs who's transferred, and we'll get into that. But I think there's going to be so much more of an offensive focus for the Tide for years to come. And I think it's interesting, to your point, though, of like, are they going to be able to retain these guys? I think Nick Saban, if you saw, he said on one of his press conferences that he's going to continue to be around the program and weigh in, and that's what DeBoer wants. DeBoer was like, why not have this guy around? Look at the success that he's been able to put on the program. Like, we're going to keep this guy in the building as much and as long as we can, right? Because his insight goes a long way.
For sure.
So you hope that just with him being in the building, like, the guys are going to still want to stay there, you know, and play there. So
right.
But
did you happen to see there was a video that came out from Paul Feinbaum? He had a kid on. I don't know if this kid's like a recurring guest or something on his show, but he's clearly like 10 or something. You can tell by the sound of his voice. But before DeBoer got hired, he's like, Paul, I got a source. Kalen DeBoer to Alabama, next head coach. Like, sign it, seal delivered. Like, yeah. And then like the next day, or I don't know, a couple days later, he's the next head coach, and Paul Feinbaum puts the video out. So
clip up.
It's hilarious.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know who his source is, but clearly it's a good one.
Feinbaum is not a Notre Dame fan, but we were blessed to be on the Feinbaum show, Aiden and myself, my business partner, and myself, when we first launched MOGL and NIL was about. So, but I know Feinbaum's an SEC through and through type of guy, which is funny. But
yeah, he was actually way ahead on the Saban retirement too. I remember him being in.
But he said that every year. He was.
Does
like,
he? Does he?
He's one of those guys who's like, this is his last year. This is his last straw.
His swan song, he likes to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't pick that up, but I definitely. I mean, I guess when you say it every year, it's 1 year. It's going to happen.
It's bound to be true, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I think we'll see. But I think they had 29 guys in the transfer portal this year. So I mean, multiple 5 stars.
That's wild,
right? And but I think that's where we are today, right? And
for sure,
one of my things coming out of high school being recruited was really not to go play for a coach. I think it's, I don't know if it's so much different, but I think when you talk about Nick Saban, it's like, all right, I'm going to go play for him. Like I hear that, but I think when you are a high school athlete considering school, that the school, the program, the culture, the academics, and everything that's gonna will be in place. That's going to be confirmed in place for your 4 or 5 years at that program. That's what you should really be considering and factoring in. But I think the world has changed. The landscape of college sports has changed, and there's so many other factors now to consider. But coaching is one thing that I just think is so volatile, right? That can change at any day, any moment, that you have to weigh it lightly.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. Like, do you think Saban's kind of like loyalty to Alabama has something to do with why people are like, oh, I want to go play for him? Not just, I mean, he's obviously a winner, but like did he coach? I mean, he obviously coached at coached at LSU in, 2008, I guess. So he was at Alabama for what?
Like, I think 15 years or so.
I guess it wasn't really that long. So he didn't really have, like, a crazy loyalty to Alabama, I guess. But
that's where he built – that's where his stamp is, you know? That's, like, his program. And, like, you talk about the numbers that and winning 7 championships and the amount of first-rounders and I think a few Heisman Trophy winners, like
but, like, what about Alabama is, like, Saban's not ever going to leave. Like, why couldn't he just have left and, like, you know, say 10 years ago? Obviously, like, now he's not going to up and leave and go build something new. He's too old to do that.
Yeah.
But why 10 years ago do you think that people would put their faith in him when he could have just said F it and go somewhere else for the money, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't think that that's not true. I was going to say I don't think that the culture of coaches just up and leaving was so prevalent back then, but obviously it was when there was a new opportunity. I think just maybe he saw a fit, man. He saw a fit for himself. He saw a fit where, like, recruiting was a little bit easier for him to get guys who wanted to come play in the SEC, and obviously his background and his experience coaching and success previously spoke for itself, right? And so guys wanted to go be a part of that. And then I think the sell for any SEC program, Tommy, is that you're playing against the best talent every year in and year out. Even if it's like, you know, I have a friend who coaches at Vanderbilt, and obviously they're on the up and up, right? But I asked him what's his pitch? Like, why would people want to come play at Vanderbilt when you guys win, you know, 2, 4, 5, 6 games a year? And the first thing he mentioned was, like, you're getting to play against the Alabamas, the Floridas of the world, the Georgias of the world, right? Like,
it's true.
So for Nick Saban, I think you're not only playing against the best of the best each week, you're playing against and practicing against the best of the best each day, right? Like, I spoke to Minka, and he was like, I'm getting to go up against Calvin Ridley. Like, imagine that competition each week or each day at practice, right? So I think it was easy for Nick to find some comfort there, and, you know, coming from LSU, it was probably similar culture
Makes
that
sense.
he had.
And do you think that, because we see a lot of older coaches kind of calling it quits maybe a little bit earlier now, do you think that NIL?
Yeah, he said it had nothing to do with it.
Nothing?
I doubt it, right? I think it's in the back of your head of just, like, things are changing now. I don't have as much control over these athletes in the program that I used to. You know, I'm not only recruiting
it's just a headache. Like, there's just
I'm
so
not
much...
only recruiting athletes, I'm recruiting freaking donors and boosters now to give, and it's just
it's a headache. It's a lot more.
It is a headache, yeah. So I don't 100% believe that NIL had nothing to do with his retirement. I think when you even think about some of these college basketball coaches retiring over the last 2-3 years, like, NIL was definitely a factor. Yeah, your guy Jay, for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, back to, like, the transfer portal and some of these guys who weren't committed to the program, or I guess you can say are committed to Coach Saban, like Julian Sayin and Caleb Downs and Jukins, right, who all ended up at OSU. Like, yeah,
Judkins was actually at Ole Miss with what's his name? Who's the coach down there at Ole Miss? He used to be a Bama guy. Lane Kiffin. Yeah, but yeah, they all went to OSU.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks volumes to OSU, man. Like, this moment that OSU and the resources that they've poured into the transfer portal, like, I have no doubt that they're gonna reap the benefits of this past month. Like, Caleb Downs, I was just looking at it. He had 107 tackles last year. Like,
damn,
he led the program.
He's a freshman, right? True freshman.
True freshman.
Yeah, damn.
I think he's the first true freshman to lead the program in tackles, like, ever. And then, or like in the last 50 years or something. Like, that's 107 tackles as a true freshman at safety.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even really quantify that. But that's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like those are like linebacker numbers, and maybe he was in the box a little bit, but like
I mean,
wild.
I'll say this: I like it's they're 5-star, 4-star guys. Like we got a couple of guys who haven't even played on a college field yet who are committed, and it's easy to look at these like numbers, whatever, these ratings or whatever you want to say. And
Julian Saint was a 5-star. We saw him out in the Elite 11.
Julian
I don't know
Saint,
if he's a 5-star, but
he is a 5-star. He's damn good. Looked really good. He's surgical out there. But I just don't like just giving them the national championship or a win over Michigan, and they haven't even even saw the field together yet. Like you know what I mean? It's like
you gotta go transition into college sports. Like it's not.
You don't even know you don't even know how these relate, like how these personalities are gonna jive. Like you might, like there's a lot more to it than just okay, these guys are all good at football. Like yeah, they are, but can they come together and be good together? That's the biggest part of it. So I don't know, and I don't really like Ryan Day as a coach and as like a leader of men. He doesn't seem like a strong leader of men. So
ooh, that's a hot take.
I don't know. I don't think it's a hot take, honestly. But
I don't think it's a hot take. I think it's a hot take for our pod, but that's good.
But and then you also got Ibuka who's coming back too. I thought he was going to go to the draft.
That's a receiver.
Yeah, so he'll be their number one receiver. I mean, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. They're going to be ranked in the top 10. They're going to be in the college football playoff next year because, I mean, if they're not, that's a huge disappointment because there's 12 teams next year. So
if they're not, NIL and inducement, which, it is what it is. But, like, then it's false. Like, I mean, Texas A&M is probably your guinea pig in terms of, like, spending $10 million plus and having a five win season, right? Like, is the money actually worth it to get these athletes to come?
That's what kind of what I meant by that. Like, you just don't know how these personalities are going to jive.
Yeah.
Get all these guys together, and hopefully it works. But we'll see.
Wait, what makes you say you're more of an Ohio State fan, right? You grew up with like Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr., so like you have more of a take around. So I'm very interested on like your take on the quarterback room, right?
Yeah,
like they're gonna have the best quarterback room in the country next year. That's not gonna. I had an example of like two guys going. Oh, it's Aaron Nolan and Julian Saint going to the same program. 2, 4, 5 stars, same class. Happened in my class with Sam Darnold and a kid named Ricky Town going to USC.
Okay,
it's just like these guys are going to clash. You're two top talents. Like, I was very curious of the thought process for these guys when I was going through it. I'm like, all right, you guys are just here at the Elite 11, committed to the same program.
Yeah.
Going for the same position. Like, what's the like? There's like 300 other schools, guys. Like,
right.
At the Division I level, like, what are we thinking here? But
that was my initial thought with Saint because he went second. Obviously, Nolan's been committed there for. I mean, he was committed there when we were at the Elite 11. So, and I don't know if you remember, but there was two guys when we were at the Elite 11, Raiola and I'm forgetting the other kid's name, but
committed to Georgia.
They were both committed to Georgia, and
Ryan,
forgive me, Ryan, but Ryan now ended up at Georgia, and Raiola's wherever.
Arkansas?
Is that where he is? I don't know.
Nebraska or something? I think
Nebraska, that's what it is. Yeah, that I don't know. Whatever. But
he's the number one guy in the class.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or Raiola.
Raiola is number one, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of all the flipping around and the transferring and all that. It's just do what's best for you. That's fine, but
do what's best for you, and it's tough. I think, especially when you're committed to a school, a top program, and with another kid who's in your class, and then there's already 4 guys in the quarterback room especially quarterbacks.
That's his name, Puglisi. Sorry.
Especially quarterbacks, right? Because there's only one that's going out into the field, and it's just tough, man. Like you're all competing for the same thing.
I know.
And short amount of time, and I mean, if you can do it before you get to college, fuck yeah, do it, right? Like, why waste a year?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sitting somewhere, learning a different offense, and then go. You know what I mean? So I think it's better for a guy like Raiola to do it then. And I think Julian was even on campus, right, saying before he went over to Columbus.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, I think he may have been on. I think he just maybe just got to campus or something like that. But yeah, do it before you get to school. But yeah, crazy stuff. Transfer portal. Ohio State's spent roughly $13 million. It's reported within the transfer portal to secure the roster that they have now. And I think Ryan Day really called, had a meeting with the boosters last year that said $15 or $13 million was really going to do it for them. And it seems like they've reached that point. And I think, man, Columbus, and we're grateful to have the support of a former Ohio State legend, Will Allen, right? And went on to be a great Pittsburgh Steeler, and he's a supporter and investor in MOGL. So, like, Ohio State has done it really well, right? Like, they're at the top of name, image, and likeness, collective operations. Gene Smith obviously rolling off as the athletic director, but like he's in full support of name, image, and likeness now. The surrounding community and some of the businesses that are supporting Ohio State athletics are really interested in the space. So like I have no pushback on what Ohio State's done, and I think they're just kind of leading the way, right? Leading the discussion.
Yeah, just hope it pays off, right? See how it goes.
There's like no return on investment unless you win a national championship.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like all the chips just right there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm interested to see how this kid Will Howard does for them. Sorry
to cut you off. I'm very interested in what you think about the quarterback room, and then why you say Coach Day is not so much your type of guy.
I don't know. I just think that, well, my whole take on the quarterback room is there's a lot going on. First of all, I will back at what you said before. I'm a Notre Dame guy through and through. Just put that out there. I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'll root for Kyle and Marv because they're Philly guys. I met them through St. Joe's Prep and did some video stuff for them back in the day. But I'm a Notre Dame guy through and through. But in the quarterback room, you got a lot going on. Obviously, I think you just paid Will Howard to come here, essentially, so you're gonna play him. But you probably paid Sane too, so it's kind of like it's a weird situation. But I think that the thing that Howard brings that Kyle didn't is he can run.
How old is Howard?
I think he's a senior.
Oh, he's old.
I don't know. He might be a junior. Let me look it up. He's been playing for a while. Yeah, he's a senior. He went to Downingtown West, I think, and they're always a good team here in PA. So he's comes from a good high school. But no, I have high hopes for Ohio State next year. I think Howard will come in and he'll be all right. I think that I think going back to Day. Sorry, I'm trying to get my screen back up here. I think going back to Day, I just think that like he let his emotions get the best of him after that whole Notre Dame game. I don't know, I kind of and just some of the way.
You let Coach Holtz get to his feelings?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm off in the blue here, but I just think like some of the way he handles certain situations is just not a.
Yeah. We're looking at it from the outside perspective. He recruited me to Boston College, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to sit in the room with him. I don't have anything, bad to say about him, but I think when you think about the media, It shows obviously your most. It shows your most, and most times your worst outbursts, right? And so for Coach Day, that was definitely that moment after the Notre Dame game where he was confronting a 90-year-old Lou Holtz, right? About like, where you at now, Lou, or whatever the hell he was saying. So it was a funny moment, right? And it kind of gave people who don't know Coach Day a perspective of like, this guy is not in his right mind, right? So I hear you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have good enough examples to give of why he's not a great leader of men. That's just my thought. I don't know. I just don't think he's going to get it done against Michigan again this year. That's just how I feel, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. More transfer portal stuff. Casey Thompson, your boy, going to OU for year 7. What are your thoughts on that?
I wanted the guy to get on the pod. He hasn't hit me back, but that's my guy. I'm always going to root for him. I think he's a good dude. We've trained together. I brought him into the House of Athlete gym down in Brandon Marshall's spot in Miami. Casey can spin the rock. I think he has a future. I think he just needs to find an opportunity that. It's just an opportunity, right? Like things flourish for you, right? Like he's obviously a great quarterback. He's had the chance to play at Texas. He's had the chance to play at Nebraska, and obviously finished last year at Florida Atlantic down in, I think that's in Fort Lauderdale, and then now he's over to getting over to Oklahoma. Like that's home for him, Like I think his father and his uncle or his brother or someone.
Really?
And his family all played there, right? And he actually committed on a special like day and time, right? That resembled his father's playing number or something like that. So
that's pretty cool. Really
cool story. Cool opportunity, man, to get back home for you and for him and to play. And I just think you got to go take advantage of this last opportunity, right? You have year 7 coming off injuries for him.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well,
see.
Best to Casey, and we'll be watching from afar.
But he has to play against Texas, right? Like
that is awkward.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, I wonder
They usually don't let you. Maybe like after a certain year, right? Like maybe after year 3 or something, they let you go play at like a rival or like someone in your conference. But usually, they write that you can't end up at like a competing school.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
That's wild.
Like, yeah, I kind of remember that. But
I feel like that's not even like that can't be a thing anymore.
You don't think so?
There's too like with with everything going on now, NIL and everything.
Yeah, I guess like when you think about all the guys who've gone from Alabama to Georgia, or
yeah, exactly. The dude last year, the receiver. But all right, let's move on to the Caitlin Clark situation. Thought that was very interesting. I'm curious to get your take on that.
I've been seeing so many. I saw so many videos, but yeah, she got rammed, right? But like, that happens a lot. Like as far as rushing the court or rushing the field because you have an upset.
I got one take first before
we
get into the Caitlin Clark thing. I was not number 1, right, in the country. They weren't, at least. Do you know that?
No, but it's Caitlin Clark.
No, I know, but
I think they were top 2. I think they were 2 or something.
All right, two might work, but the whole like thing around storming the court is totally ruined anymore. Because it used to be you storm the court when you beat the number 1 team in the country. Now, if you beat like
it's just an upset, yeah.
Now if you beat like a top 10 team, even if you're like if you stink, it's like if we beat a top 25 team, we're storming the court. It's like no, you don't get to just storm the court. You storm the court when you beat the number 1 team in the freaking country. It's become like this everybody gets to do it type of thing. No, you don't. Everybody doesn't get to storm the court. You got to beat the number 1 team in the country. And now we're, hitting Caitlin Clark's getting ran into because people were storming the court. I think it's ridiculous. I think that should be saved only for that one instance. But
how do you stop an entire stadium from doing that though, Tommy?
You just yell stop. You just keep yelling stop.
Yeah,
just get a bunch of heavy set dudes and just yell stop.
Yeah,
that'll work.
I don't think I agree. I don't think I agree with you. I think that's what's going to make our show work here. Is like us disagreeing, because you can't take away the joy from a fan base and from a team if you're not ranked and you beat the number 10 team or the number 8 team. Like, that's freaking awesome, and that moment is something that you'll never forget. And that's going to be something that's like March Madness, right? Like, what about that? Those moments, like, even if it's like, that's what we live for when we watch March Madness, is seeing the unseeded team come in and or the number whatever,
right? It's the 15,
unseeded team,
the 16,
15 beating the number 4 or something, right? Like, those moments live on forever. And although I know, like, I think people have to be a little bit more safe. Maybe the athletes can walk off the court instead of running off the court, like literally. So that if there is a collision, then it's not that powerful, right? And hopefully Caitlin's okay.
I think First and foremost, I hope that she is okay. But she did seem like she was okay.
Yeah.
And I think they did say that she was okay. But I think that the whole, obviously you got to be mindful of like your surroundings when in that situation. Yeah. Obviously it's like a crazy, I'm sure you're just trying to get in, like there's a lot going on, like you're not really.
You just want to be a part of the crowd.
Yeah, you just want to be a part of what's going on. People are going after this girl. Like, I don't like the girl ran on the court. Like, I don't.
Are they really?
Like, I've seen it on like social media. Like, I don't think it's not her fault. Like, she didn't see her either, but I also kind of think that, and I also kind of think that Caitlin kind of sold it a little bit on her way down. But that's just, I mean,
the arm extension.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
she's good. She's good at the flopping.
She has taken her share of hits, and she was just trying to draw a foul. That's all she was trying to do.
Yeah.
So I can't blame her for that. But rough hit. And just gotta move on, and
right.
As for the fans, just keep an eye out for the players moving forward.
Absolutely, be respectful.
Right? Be more mindful.
Don't spit on them. Don't give them the finger. Like,
no,
I've seen that happen. I forget, that might have been the Notre Dame game actually.
Or Kelsey last weekend. You see that with the Bills? He's like running into the corner, and just all the fans are just flipping him the bird.
No.
Or actually, even better, this is more college, the Pitt-Duke game. Duke. And
that was awesome.
Awesome. That kid was snapping. He had like 8 threes.
Yeah, and to jump up in the – that's awesome. That's like –
fucking awesome. Like, that gave me chills
baby.
Watching that.
And
you go – especially in Duke, like, F Duke. And he just, like, stands up on literally every single one of those kids is flipping him the bird. And, of course,
great.
like, everybody – yeah, that's great, too. I love that. Like, I mean –
great. You're a Philly guy. You love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, too. You got to flip the bird. But, of course, like, Duke, like, the stereotypical, like, oh, this is – we're Duke. Like, we're a smart school. Like, we're perfect. Like, and they're just like, everybody's flipping them off. It's, like, bad look for Duke. But, it's funny.
I want to discuss the federal hearing that happened last week, just really briefly to give people a context of some of the legislative movements, that are going around. So I'm going to read something really quick just to give a little bit of context. So the federal hearing last week, held last Thursday, Florida Representative Gus Bilirakis, the Republican chairman of the House subcommittee, said that Thursday's hearing that while NIL is great for players, it has enabled a Wild West environment where pay-for-play is rampant, right? So pay-for-play is essentially Well, I don't know if he's so right on that, right? Pay for play is like, here, your performance, you score this amount of touchdowns, you get paid based on essentially an incentive model, right? That's what pay for play is. But I think he meant so much. I think he meant more inducement, like
right. Come to our school to play.
The bill proposed by the subcommittee chair, Bilirakis, titled the Fair College Sports Act, or otherwise known as Fairness, Accountability, and Integrity and Representation of College Sports Act, is a bill that was created to protect the rights of student athletes, to cover compensation, prohibit inducements, and provide for the transparency with respect to name, image, and likeness. So this was the bill that was being heard and discussed at the hearing last week. And quickly, right, like having tuned into the hearing and hearing a good friend of ours, Chase Griffin, who's a quarterback at UCLA, who's bound to be a politician just by the way, he holds and carries himself. The bill, and I looked quickly through it, right, it did include a lot of terms around limitations and prohibiting athletes from a lot of things, and altering the way that NIL is already being done, and it just in like at a high level, it puts a lot of more guardrails on the space, which I'm not a fan of. It puts the guardrails around like inducement, and I think when to draw connectivity here, when you think about like the workforce and how corporate America works, you really do pay for talent, right? Like you place a salary and a compensation amount at a level that's going to be attractive to the top talent, and that's how a lot of other industries operate. And I think even though these athletes are not employees, like that's just part of sports, part of the game.
So would you argue that the argument here is really that are NCAA athletes employees, or are they not? Like that's really what it is coming down to?
Yeah, that's the biggest argument, right? That's present right now, and I think the NLRB is right now in a case. I think it's for USC men's basketball and football athletes deciding whether or not they are employees. So the NLRB is the National Labor's Relations Board, and so they're in a case versus the NCAA to see if that the UCLA men's basketball team and football team are deemed employees. And I think when you think about employee status, a lot of what we have to think about and consider is like how much time we're putting in as athletes, right? Like how much time we're committing to our sport and to our craft.
Right. I saw Chase had said that like it pretty much feels like we're full-time employees.
Yeah. I mean, you're answering to staff. You're following instructions. You're waking up at a certain time. You're getting to your work location at a certain time. It's literally sweat and tears into this thing, right? To create an outcome, you're generating billions of dollars of revenue for an organization. Like when you consider all those things, you're traveling, right? Like when you consider all those things, the employment
makes a ton of
thing
sense.
looks a little bit more intriguing. So it's one of the hottest topics of NIL, and it'll continue to be until that's like officially deemed by the NLRB of whether or not college athletes are employees. So I think just this bill that was, the hearing last week, it was a good start, right? Like to have someone from Congress like have a specific NIL hearing and spending 3.5 hours on the topic was a great place to start. Even
actually having athletes in the room too.
Yeah, like it was the first time there was current college athletes, like more than one, that were part of the conversation, and like that's who we have to put forward first, right? Is the college athlete's voice.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that happened. Other than that, right? I think about like how influencer marketing works, right? And this bill was requiring disclosures and transparency from athletes' earnings, and like I always want to compare it to things that are just more common in the space and in the world. And I think you can compare college athletes' NILs to just influencer marketing, right? And like, other than reporting your income to the IRS, you're not disclosing to any single entity, right? I mean,
Right.
like, I guess that would be disclosure, but like, there's no governing body that's like, you can only make this amount of money, or like, here are the guardrails around what you can do, what brands you can promote, that type of thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think you can definitely compare it to how influencer marketing space, kind of works, and how NIL works.
It is such a difficult argument, because it's like, this is like, we're the vehicle that is driving you to this success, right? Because like, if you're not on our, like, if you're not using, like, if you're not in the NCAA and you're not playing for a team in the NCAA, you're not on this platform, right? And that doesn't give you that platform. So that's like their whole argument, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a tough, like, but either way, I mean, that's just the only place for athletes to go, right? If there was anywhere else, they would still be who they are. They're still amazing. Yeah. They're still amazing at what they do.
Which is interesting. You bring up an interesting point, right? Because the new president, Charlie Baker, proposed a new subdivision, which I think we talked about last episode, right? But like, this new subdivision of the top FBS programs, right? Like your highest resource programs like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama, would be able to create a subdivision, right? And where they're paying athletes, I think it was like a $30,000 annual compensation into like a trust fund or something like that. And so like, new rules would govern that subdivision, right? Which is what you're saying. Like, there would be their own rules where they can operate, and schools could pay them, and athletes can do kind of, just have a new set of rules, which I think would be best
necessary at this point,
outside from the NCAA. So I just think, for people who are tuning into the conversation, when it comes to name, image, and likeness legislation, there's so much movement going on currently that we are in an ever-evolving world. And as a founder of a company that, really depends on legislation, we have to do our best to stay up to speed with what's current, what bills are being proposed, what state legislation looks like, and then obviously, the existence of the NCAA, and if there's anything new that's going to be formed, right? So that's something that we're really focused on, and that we have to stay up to speed with.
Yep. Cool. Let's last thing here. The FanDuel just came out with their 2024 Heisman odds. Brandon was head on with.
Bush was number one with plus 200. He's coming back for his 8th year, baby.
Taysom Hill style.
Taysom Hill style. Yeah.
You asked,
playing quarterback, playing receiver, playing running back, playing kick returner, playing safety.
You asked, Brandon answered. No, but Brandon was correct in his. Well, not correct, but he was.
We'll come back in a year.
Yeah, we'll see. Your prediction was number one, and Quinn, he was plus 750 leader. I mean, there's 3 leaders at plus 750. We got Quinn at number 1, and then leading him at number 2 at also plus 750 is Carson Beck. Number 3, Jalen Milroe, also at plus 750. Then we go down to number 4, Dylan Gabriel at plus 1,000. Nico, forgive me, Nico Ayamalava. Sorry, I just butchered that name. Plus 1,800. And Jackson Arnold, also plus 1,800. Connor Weigman from Texas A&M, plus 1,800. And I don't know why J.J. McCarthy's even on this list, plus 1,800. He's going to the NFL. So, where are you putting your money, Brandon?
Yeah, I think you got, I don't know. You got Riley Leonard as well. He's on there, tied at 10. You got Cam Ward.
Yeah, where's this? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot the rest of the list here. We got Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, plus 2,000. Jackson.
Sanders.
Yeah, Jackson Dart. plus 2,000.
I don't know. I'm going with my original. It's an easy.
Plus 750.
Yeah, it's like an easy out, right, for me to choose Quinn, just because, like, I'm really high on like experience, right, and coming off of a year, and even a guy like Caleb Williams went, he got I think even half a year his first time out, and then won it his second year, right? Like, he had the experience coming in, and obviously within the same system, so that's going to be important for Quinn, and he has guys coming back, and the team went far into the playoffs, like.
Yeah, and they also added Isaiah Bond from Alabama, the wide receiver. So
gonna have weapons on weapons, man. So I think I still stick with Quinn as my number one. I'll go my buddy, my good friend Dylan Gabriel as my number 2 guess.
There you go. I'm gonna stick with Milroe myself. I mean,
Milroe.
Yeah, we'll see what Caleb.
I just don't know about passing numbers that he's gonna put up. Like, I think you gotta have some.
I think he could have like a Lamar type season. Go crazy, like 2,000 in between 2,000 and 3,000 passing yards and like 1,000 rushing yards, something crazy like that. I don't know. That would be absurd, but I could see.
I don't know. Yeah, you got to put up like at least 3,500 passing.
Yeah,
I think at least.
And like
40
touchdowns, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe like 50.
Well, we'll see, man. If he can be the gunslinger that DeBoer is looking for, then I think he has a chance to definitely do Heisman type numbers.
Yep, he's certainly going to have the weapons around him too down there in Tuscaloosa. Don't have to worry about that.
You'll never be short of weapons down there in Tuscaloosa.
Roll damn tide.
Roll damn tide. You gotta show that video of that guy. I'll send you the video. Do you know Drewski, the comedian?
Do I know Drewski? I freaking love Drewski.
Yeah. Did you see him with the roll tide guy?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I know who you're talking about, though. I know who you're talking about, the roll tide guy.
Yeah. But cool.
Yeah. I think we're good.
We're good here. Thank you guys again for joining into this episode. We are going to kick it over, and you'll hear from a former Alabama walk-on turned content creator turned founder, entrepreneur, Mac Hereford, who has awesome insight into what it was like playing for legendary coach Nick Saban, and talks about his retirement and how the Alabama community is going to be able to cope with the retirement and with his departure. This brings up a question, right? And I guess we obviously just jumped right into it, but so it was always funny because I was like, I had lockers next to we had a quarterback, we had it position based for maybe 2-3 years, and then we went 4-8, and they were like, "F that, we're putting, we're mixing this up, right? We're mixing everything up, we're clearing house." So then it was like very scattered. I was next to guys like Dexter Williams, who's running back, Quentin Nelson, offensive lineman, and so it's like a mix of cultures and mix of different types of guys. But the music was always interesting because in certain sections, running backs and guys from Florida were playing Florida music, and then the offensive line wanted Luke Bryan and whoever else is some country artist. But what type of music were you playing? I can probably imagine.
So I was I was a walk-on, and it ended up so there was, when I first got in, walk-ons had like a certain, we're all in the same locker room. So I know some schools, make it different where walk-ons are in a different building or get like crap lockers. We're in the same locker room. But as you start to, as your role starts to increase and you start to, whether it's play more, move yourself up on the depth chart, you get moved over to, so it's like, there's like walk-ons, some O linemen, some like D linemen, and then there's kind of, you end up being in a different part of the locker room. And I got moved into an area we called the hood, which was like a bunch of linebackers. Yeah. So I was around guys like Jamie Mosley, Christian Miller. Let's see, who else? Shadarius Townsend was a guy over there as a wide receiver. Jalen Moody, Brian Robinson, the running back, was in there for a little while. So we had a cool section. and I was bumping all kind of music, predominantly rap music, and I was just
Yeah.
like having to be that I had a speaker, and I was like, all right, I got this speaker, so I'd put it up in the top of my locker, and then I would just look stuff up, and every day come with some new stuff, come with whatever, and play music, and just had an adaptive taste, and like I think I did a pretty good job. I think people would say I did a pretty good job over that side of the locker room, kept it bumping. But yeah, it was mostly rap music and a lot of Atlanta rap, and then mix it with, like, some other random artists that I could find.
Yeah.
Supplying the vibes.
Yeah.
Probably Future was going back then. But awesome, man. Well, want to jump right into it. We have Mac Hereford. I looked that up, how to pronounce that. I still butchered it.
Let's go. No, I mean, you said it right. Many people say Hereford, and it's like, I'm fine with whatever, but Hereford is the correct, or the way I pronunciate it.
Let's go. Tommy, what were you going to say? Say it.
That's Brandon's kryptonite, is pronouncing people's names. He gets.
Well, we got it. We got it. But
there you go.
Mac, thanks so much for joining episode 2 of 2024 of the Moguls podcast. My co-host Tommy Marlowe here, head of content and strategy and social media at Mogul. But we're excited to have our guest today, entrepreneur, marketing specialist, content creator, founder, right? I think his most recent entrepreneur startup is owner of Herf Media. Want to hear about that? Marketing specialist. He's had the chance to work at some really exciting companies, including Raising Cane's, who's been really active in the name, image, and likeness space, the NFL, College Game Day, NHL, Titans, MLS, Apple, MGM, just to name a few. And he's taken on some exciting projects after graduating from Alabama in 2019. And some of these projects included being featured on Good Morning America and SportsCenter, working as a viceroy for Barstool Sports in college, and then you also worked at a startup called, was it Wagger or Wager?
Wager.
That was acquired by Yahoo Sports. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, so you listed off like almost all of it.
No,
but
I listed off, Mac. I listed off your LinkedIn bio, so appreciate it.
Hey, let's go. At least my LinkedIn's doing all right. But yeah, so all that to say, you talked about a lot of different things, but basically what I've done is I call it 2 buckets, and there's this entrepreneurial bucket, I call it like the business bucket, and then I have the side that's the content bucket. So I've separated the two. When I was in college, started making content, just decided it was honestly came from hearing people talk about it, but also seeing the impact. Like, I knew I could have a bigger impact on the community, on other people, especially kids in the area and Alabama fans, and helping them just become, better people, help inspire them and help them want to do more. And so it started as kind of just a thing for fun, and realizing like the power of it was really special. And then helping guys realize it, and then starting to get a little bit on TikTok, and seeing, wow, people really just want to see what's inside the facility. So without giving away too much, I could give a little bit, and it would still do well. So that's what kind of started this content area. And then I just had a love for meeting people and connecting with others. So whether it be, Stephen Galanis from Cameo, sorry, 1 second, I got a call. Stephen Galanis from Cameo, or, Gary V, other people. I was just communicating with others during college, whether it was rappers, anything, and just really figuring out how I could help them. What could I do to help those guys and make them better, help them out with their businesses, just to get information and learn more about what they're doing. And so then following college, I was like, all right, I'd already worked for a startup. I went to Vanderbilt and got my master's in marketing. And so worked for a startup called Press Sports, which was a lot of fun, and got a great learning experience with those guys. And that's where I first kind of opened, I guess, this kind of business side of things. I was like, all right, someone reached out to me, put me in contact with them, and a lot of the skills and values that I have, or assets, could be used in this business world, at the same time as growing my personal social media. And the reason those people kind of heard about me or found me was through relationships, one, but then about the work I'd kind of done on that content side. And so I realized that, like, I call it the Jackie Moon strategy, but the all-in-one. You got Jackie Moon from the movie Semi-Pro. He's the player, he's the coach, he's the manager of the whole entire system. Yeah. In the same way, that's kind of the attitude I took into the work world. So I had the player, so-called, which is the content side. So I loved making content, enjoyed it, collaborating with others, could meet new people through that. But it was also a product that I could show to businesses and brands and companies. Yeah. And then you have this other side, which is, I'm over here, I'm managing my own stuff. Maybe I've worked with some agencies, worked with some different groups, But all in all, when a brand reached out, I was the one talking to them so that I could develop the relationship, and then hopefully take that relationship past just doing some kind of promotion for them.
That's awesome.
And all in all, today, that's kind of where I am. I started Herf Media, so that was just like needed to start an LLC just for tax reasons. I
Yeah,
thought it'd
just
be
to run everything through there.
beneficial.
Yeah.
So decided to do that, and I don't really do too much. Like I kind of just still stuff's contracted out through my name, but I had started the LLC just to kind of have somewhere as a home base,
Yeah.
and then the work with a lot of those groups. So on the content side, like College Game Day, I've done stuff with them on the content side, whether I've been in videos. I did a video with Kirk Herbstreit, Raising Cane's one of my buddies who works for a marketing and media agency called Get Engaged, which is booming, is incredible. Cam Fordham, a guy I consider a mentor and a person I've learned a lot from, as well as a great friend, was the one who was kind of like, hey, we want to help incorporate you into some of the stuff we're doing. So I got to do some videos with Raising Cane's, also help Get Engaged with some of their ideas. And today now I've got like, one side again, the content side, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing social media stuff, doing some brand deals. And then on the other side of things, I'm working with some startup companies, helping them figure out things and connecting the two to be able to grow, in all different kind of ways.
I love it, man. There's so much to unpack in that, right? But and I appreciate it. I think for those who are listening, we have Mac Hereford on, who's a former walk-on football player at the University of Alabama, and the primary topic of conversation today is going to be around the recent news of the big man's retirement. Coach Nick Saban retiring this week. So we want to get Mac's insight on that. But I think before we jump in, everything that you just mentioned obviously revolves around content, name, image, and likeness, using your personal branding. I just had a quick question, man. Like, when was the first video, or do you remember the first video that you recorded that kind of gave you the thought process of like, you know what, this is something that I feel comfortable and I can, take to the next level, right? You said you started recording content in college, but do you remember that first video that gave you that confidence to keep pushing forward with it?
Yeah, so it's a pretty funny story. So when I was in the locker room at one point, and we're in fall camp area, or just coming out of fall camp, and guys, like Brandon, fall camp is an absolute battle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. You're day in, day out. You're working the whole entire day from like however it is in the morning till late night. You're tired. You're exhausted. So one of the days of fall camp or after a lift or something, we get out and everyone's just kind of tired, and people are kind of like, dang. And I talked to Gary V. I'd been up the year prior to meet with Gary V. and talk to him about some things, and he's always just telling me, you got to keep finding new ways to incorporate and do content and this kind of thing, and showcase what you're doing. And so I got on this app called TikTok at the time. I didn't know what it was. I think I might have been the first, if not one of the first SEC football players on TikTok. But I was like, what would be fun to do?
What year was this?
This was back in 2000 and shoot,
19?
17.
Oh, really?
17, 18, maybe. One of the years. I can't like put it back to the exact year.
Yeah.
Should be able to do that. Days and stuff run crazy these days. But all that to say, I was like, what would be kind of fun to make? And I always loved. I liked the idea of making content because again, you can. The biggest part of marketing to me was in-person marketing. So whether it was treating someone right, that's how you really garner a true fan and a true supporter, is person to person. But I was like, what if I take this and just kind of show a different side of me, but also a different side of the players? And one day I saw this video on TikTok that was kind of funny. It was like these door sounds. So it was like door noises, but they make kind of a beat. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, Mac, like I got Mac Jones. We were in the locker room one day and I said, hey, can you film, this video of me doing this thing? And he was like, what Hereford, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, dude, just film this for me. And so I got him to film a couple of different shots with that TikTok sound at the time, and posted that video, and next thing you know, it's a couple 100,000 views. And I'm like, well, damn, like this is crazy, And then I'm getting all these Instagram followers that are coming over from TikTok, and I'm starting to realize, like, dang, there's a lot of power in this. And then the next thing you know, so that was the first video I believe that I remember is the door opening video, just because it showcased a little bit of the locker room, it showcased a little bit about me, and people are like, whoa, football players on TikTok. Yeah. So then I started to get guys just like, I'd be like, hey, can you do this or something after practice? We're goofing off, we've had our time where it's been serious all day and everyone's a little bit tired, but like people want to have a little bit of fun. What can I do to make things exciting in the locker room? And started to ask guys if they would do something here and
Is that
there.
when
And
you
like
got Mac
guys,
Jones? Is that when you got Mac Jones on camera? Remember that? And
I
he was in a
not that.
towel.
Oh, so that was another time. That was just again, I saw an idea and I was like, I could recreate this in the locker room.
Yeah.
And guys don't care. Guys think it's funny. And it got to the point, it was kind of cool. I can remember talking to one of my teammates, Brandon Turnage, who's now at Tennessee. Talked to him about it the other day. He remembers, and my buddy Jalen Moody, who were in the locker room in the same area that I was, we would do a video and it would get like hundreds of thousands of views. And we weren't doing these like goofy dances. We were just doing stuff that we thought was funny. That was, whether it be just like talking or doing some kind of game in the locker room.
Yeah.
And they would come up to me and be like, Mac, this is so funny. So-and-so texted me, said I'm famous because I'm on this guy's TikTok. And they're like, I'm teammates with him. So then it was like this feeling of like, wow, like this is crazy. I don't, I'm a walk-on. I don't really play on Saturdays. And so getting this feeling of like, wow, some people are recognizing me, but it's making people laugh. People are texting my other teammates in the locker room, kind of continued to give me that drive to dabble in the TikTok world and realize the importance of it and what it can do for me personally. And then all that to say, it gets to the time where after games, I'm coming out of the tunnel and people are like, that's Mac from TikTok, Maybe it wasn't the fact that I was making the big catch on the field, but some sort of recognition was kind of fun to me, and to put different players on a spotlight and, help out any of my teammates and give them some exposure and help them kind of understand, like, look, y'all should get on TikTok too. It's a great way to build your brand. And it was before NIL, so
Yeah.
it was just a way to kind of get people realizing the importance of marketing, and it became a really fun thing to do in the locker room.
You couldn't get my guy Minka Fitzpatrick to get in front of the camera and do anything funny. All right.
Look, Minka left, or was the last year. Minka. First of all, Minka, but it's the last year, and he's a funny guy, but
he's not going to do it on camera though. But
he's not really going to do it on camera. And I would say also in the football facility, he was all business, strictly business, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, a great team leader, always keeping things intact in the locker room, good, faithful man, and always just leading us in the right direction. But outside of the locker room, when he would be funny or crack up a little joke or two, but couldn't get him on camera, but got some of those other guys, like you mentioned in that one video that's like the Office themed video. I had Mac, Patrick Surtain, Judy, and I just wanted, the idea of that was to get them in there. I didn't tell them I was doing it. I just went up to them because I did that kind of stuff. I would make goofy Snapchats to people. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go up to them and, video and see what their actual reaction is, because that makes the video more real,
right.
Which I thought was kind of funny. But
yeah.
Mac, what would you say to maybe not walk on, but athletes who at a D2 level or a D3 level who want to get into NIL, but they don't really know where to start? And it's such a flooded kind of business, I guess, or just the content creation now at this point. There's so many people doing it. So what would you tell to someone trying to get into it now?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's look, at the end of the day, you talk about it's just really in general to anyone who wants to get into content. Everyone has value. Everyone is unique, and everyone has a different life and a different way of doing things. And so I would tell a player at that level, any level, if it was a walk-on guy at a Division I school, if it's a D2 player who might not even play at a D2 school, a guy might not even play at a D3 school, you have a unique way of doing things, and you have a unique journey and story. So figure out a way, whether it's watching others' videos, whether it's watching different things on TikTok, Instagram, what's working for these different people. How do I incorporate and bring this blueprint over? I used to call it the blueprint method, but essentially it was looking at other things online, seeing a different method work. How do I bring that method over here and reincorporate it and reinvent it with me? So I would tell them the first thing is you just got to want to do it, and there's value, and you can do it. Anyone can do it. You could take so-and-so who's a person picking up trash every day. You could start making content, and someone's going to be interested, and someone's going to want to know your story and learn your story. You just got to be able to tell it in a way that people want to hear it. So all that to say, for guys in that kind of situation, I would say, look, again, people want to hear your story. There's someone out there who can relate to you. There's some kind of entertainment you can bring. There's some kind of value you can bring. And so it's figuring that out. So get on these apps, start posting stuff. You don't know what, look, at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to pop off. You don't know what's not going to pop off. But if you just sit there and do nothing, then nothing's going to pop
Right.
up. So
Right.
the biggest thing is if you're
Facts.
wanting to get into that and wanting to, especially for NIL, for those guys at those other schools, whether it's small school, D2, D3, get out there, start posting some stuff, try to figure out what works, and you know, and look at the blueprint of other methods and models that have worked and try to incorporate it into your own life. And you would be shocked about the people who want to know what you're doing and want to know what's, you know, made you a better person, or what the work you're kind of putting in, or the different challenges of the situation you're in, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that comes to mind when you talk about you don't know what will pop and everyone's unique in talent. I think I just saw a TikTok recently of this guy who works at like Papa John's, and he's flipping the dough, and like he's doing these crazy things with the dough on his finger, and like, you know, he's getting 400,000 more likes. And you would just, like you said, something that's so mundane as creating, is making pizza or taking out the trash. It's just, everyone's unique, right? Everybody has their own personality. Everyone's a one of one, and you can make a story out of anything. But no, I enjoyed the conversation on the content, and we can potentially get back to that later in the conversation, but want to give the people who are listening what they came here for, to talk about Coach Nick Saban and his retirement. What is the feeling around Alabama players, fans, community, Tuscaloosa? You're a Southern guy. How are people feeling?
Look, so for me personally, I can remember someone telling me like, "Hey, Coach Saban's retiring," and I laughed it off. It was a Tennessee fan, one of my buddies in Nashville. I'm like, "Dude, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. It's not even funny." And then like he's like, "No, I'm being serious," and I'm like, "All right." And then I go on the Instagram, I see one page post about it, and I'm like, "This is a funny meme. I've seen this kind of stuff before. You know, Coach Saban doesn't win the national championship. People are going to be posting this stuff." And then ESPN notification pops up, and then I'm like, "All right, like this is the real deal." But at the moment, I couldn't really comprehend it. I'm like, holy cow, like, you know, everyone knew this day was going to come.
Right.
Everyone knows that. But I don't think people thought, one, it would come at this point in time. And so it came as a shock to me, and I really couldn't even comprehend it. I'm still, like, struggling to comprehend what the hell's going on. The fact that Coach Saban is no longer coaching, not just at Alabama, but coaching in football in general. So for me personally, it's a moment of shock, just kind of like, holy cow. But then at the same time, immediately after that, just kind of like, I smiled and I was happy. I was like, let's go. You know, Coach Saban had one of the best coaching careers, if not the best coaching career in college football history. And for me to be able to even get a piece of that and be there while under Coach Saban is an unbelievable feeling. But then when we talk about the rest of the community, my phone was blowing up off the hook. Not many people felt the same way I did. Every other person, I remember someone texting in a group chat like, you know, Coach Saban retired, and they're like, I might just retire from my job too. This may be the end for me. This day can't get any worse. 2024 can't get any worse.
Yeah.
So I think from a lot of the community, it's a little bit of, especially for the Bama super fans, it's a little bit of panic and, you know, sad day for them, because they're just like, holy cow, like, what's going to happen? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
People are freaking out. But it's the biggest news that some people have heard in their whole entire lives. You know, we grew up, Coach Saban's been in college football for years and years, and especially for the Alabama football program, the things he's done. And, you know, he's this figure. He's like a Michael Jordan in his prime, you know, but in coaching in college football. So, again, for me, it's a feeling of gratefulness, just thankful that I got to experience and be a part of that, you know, again, because I guess compare it to that Michael Jordan era. I grew up watching Michael Jordan all the time and thinking, wow, like, that's greatness. And in the same sense, like, I got to be a part of that in a small way in my life. And so just to get to have experienced it firsthand and be coached by him, I'm just grateful and thankful.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the community, it's for a lot of people, it's panic.
I mean, you grew up going to camps, right? Like, what was it, 2007 was your first memory? Like, take us back to that day.
Yeah, so 2007 was the first camp with Coach Saban that I went to. It was Coach Saban's first year at Alabama. You know, there was a lot of just wonder, and again, Alabama it's not like it's never been a powerhouse. It's always been a great program and talked about since the Bear Bryant days. So coming in at that time, 2007, there was a lot of talk. Who was this new guy, Coach Saban? Who was Nick Saban? I went to his camp, and I can remember my grandfather and my mom took me up at that camp, 2007, his first year, and I'm walking up, and I'm thinking, who is this guy? You know, I'm a little kid. I didn't really know who this coach was or anything like that. But my grandfather, I remember him telling me, like, Mac, this is going to be someone special, you know. Coach Saban, like, he took me to the camp. My grandfather did, just because he wanted to see the guy in person. And then I remember going up to him, shaking his hand, and, you know, taking that picture. And then throughout that camp, the way that he talked and the things he said just stuck with me since then. The first thing I can remember him saying at that camp was a story from Martin Luther King Jr. that was about, you know, if you want to be a street sweeper, you got to be the best street sweeper you can be, in the sense of no matter what it is that you do, you know, you got to be the best. And I loved that because it spoke to me in the sense of, here's this coach. It's my first year ever meeting this coach. It's his first year at Alabama. And he could have chosen to talk just football, football, football. But the things he was saying, they weren't just for football. It's about life. You know, he was preaching not only to the kids sitting down on a knee, but to our parents in the background that were about to leave us for camp. He was speaking to everybody, you know, and then just that was the first time I experienced Coach Saban, was that camp in 2007. And ever since then, it was like I lived by a lot of those things that he talked about, whether it be the process that I got to, you know, live and breathe at the University of Alabama, but I lived and breathed that process from the moment he explained it. You know, just the ability to, when in high school, I was doing the things that, look, here's where I want to be. How do I get there? And what are the things I need to do to get there? And that's what Coach Saban preached, and it worked, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Tommy, what were you going to ask?
No, I was just going to add the Saban retiring kind of reminded me of the Brady retirement. It just kind of felt like out of the blue. You were kind of expecting a little more from him, maybe another year or two, and just boom, out of nowhere, just retired. See it on ESPN, you're like, oh shit.
So if you're relating it to the Brady retirement, you're expecting an unretirement within the next 3 months?
Yeah, I guess so. That would be cool. Be cool for Alabama fans. It'd be cool for Mac.
Right. No, I love that.
That would be nuts. That would be absolutely nuts.
He's a little bit too old to be unretiring.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What how did he build such a dominant culture, Mac? Right? Like, I mean, you talk about some of the players that have come through there, and when I think of Alabama and I think of Coach Saban, I think of my best friend Minkah Fitzpatrick and his demeanor and approach to sports, and then his demeanor and approach to everything in life is the same. And so I think it speaks to, you know, what you guys have built. But how did he do that? You've been such a fan of the program for such a long time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on. We could write 20 novels. We could write a series on all of the certain things that Coach Saban did. From a basic, you know, understanding is just the fact that he had this process. And you bring up Minkah Fitzpatrick, and look, Minkah did it better than anyone. Minkah was literally a mini Coach Saban.
I love how happy you talk about Minkah.
He's the GOAT. I mean, Minka's the person who knows everything and is, you know, just a genius. But all that to say, Coach Saban had a way of taking these ideologies of the process of being the best person you can be. So he took these different things, and he was able to coach them at the college level in a way that each and every single individual would invest in what he was saying. The reason that would be is because a lot of people can say, hey, you need to invest in the process. You need to do this. They can say stories all day. But we're looking at a guy who's not only preaching it, but walking and doing, like, you know, walking the walk. He's walking the walk. He's doing these things. We can see by the way he works, whether it's after a game, he's you know, we come into the film session the next day after a game, Coach Saban already knows every single mix-up, every single problem that happened, and it hasn't even been 24 hours since the game happened, you know? So he's preaching these things to us, and he's doing the things that he's preaching, and then it was all about this process, like all about it, and coaching us to be not only the best football player we can be, but helping us be the best person we can be and setting us up for success in life. And he had a way of just, you know, I can't really explain, like he had the ability to talk to just about anyone. And he did a really good job of he's up here, you know, and then you have the coaches, the assistant coaches, the offensive coordinators. He was essentially a manager of this business. And so he cared about the guys down here. He cared about us, the players, and all the people involved. But he was really close with these coaches in this second group, this like tier of the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and would teach these guys so well that they would incorporate the system to us. And it was this just well-oiled machine. And now you have like you have someone like Minka. That's a completely different story because he was extremely close to Coach Saban and talked to Coach Saban more than most anyone I know. But yeah, he just had an ability to incorporate this process into the system, and he walked what he talked, and just was critical in every single detail, treated everyone to the same standard, required the same standard of excellence from every single individual, all the way down to a guy who may be a janitor. He required the same standard of excellence from them that he did from every single player. You were going to do your job, and you're going to do it to the level that he required you to do it, or you weren't meant to be at Alabama. And he did that really well. And again, there's ton more that we could talk about and go on and on and on about, but that in my eyes is one of the many reasons that Coach Saban, the ability he had to build such a powerhouse.
Tommy, you got anything? I love that.
Yeah, that was awesome. No, I don't really have anything to build off of that, but I do have one question I want to ask you about your time at Alabama. Your top 5 teammates while you're at Alabama. It's a little bit of a tough one.
I know y'all want the list, and I'm just letting y'all know right now, I'm the worst person with top 3s, top 5s. People ask me this all the time, like, give me top 3 DBs you went against at Alabama, top 5, whatever you went at Alabama. But what I like to do is I'll just highlight a couple of people, no particular order. And one of them that's top of my mind, we've been talking about him a lot, but just someone who had a great impact on me at Alabama that I learned a lot from was Minka Fitzpatrick. Brandon, obviously, one of your best friends. But while we're talking about Coach Saban, we're talking about a player that I remember walking in and he just stood out from the crowd. There's a guy, he wasn't necessarily the biggest vocal leader, didn't really talk too much, was kind of quiet at times, but he was one of those guys that you look at and by the way he walks, by the way he plays, by the way he's in practice, that he's just on a different wavelength. He's on a different level. And the way that he was a faithful just man and, would talk to every single individual and treat them the same. We talk about Coach Saban, and I've been on this talking about the process, talking about the things that Coach Saban did great. Well, you take that down to a player level. Minka was that Coach Saban of the players, of teammates. He was a guy who treated everyone with the same level of respect, treated everyone with the same level of kindness, and expected everyone to do their job. So that's one person that I just absolutely love, getting to play at the University of Alabama with and getting to learn from. And just the fact that he wasn't necessarily, anytime we would talk, it wasn't preaching football. It was preaching more of, being a good guy and believing and being a man of God and walking around and doing the right things. And that's what stuck out to me about him. So that was one player, just top of mind, because y'all are talking about him, and I know Brandon, y'all are good buddies. But then other guys that I just loved playing around or just stuck out to me that are random on the top of my head, like Reuben Foster. You talk about a guy who...
That video won't ever go. I mean,
I wanted him so bad in an Eagles uniform when he got drafted. So bad. But Derek Barnett ended up working out pretty well for us. But
there's a crazy story. So Reuben... Just one of the reasons he just sticks out to me in my head is I think back to a guy who was just full of joy. I mean, we're talking about somebody who just could light up the world, man. Like he would talk to anybody, he would make you laugh. But the coolest thing is on the talent level, I don't know if there's many people like Reuben Foster. I mean, I remember he was taking visits during the time that, you're a high draft prospect, you're going to go to these different places, whether it's Dallas, whatever it is, these different NFL teams, and you're going to do these visits where you stay in a hotel, do the whole thing, whole 9, they talk to you and all this stuff. And so Reuben went on a little bit of a period of time where he was doing that. And then we had some other NFL guys that were training. And this was I forget what year this was. I think this was going into my sophomore year. And I was kind of getting Garrett Dieter, who was a player, a wide receiver, to kind of train me. And he was off season, kind of helping me with some things. And Garrett Dieter was training for the league as well. And then you had guys like O.J. Howard who were training at Alabama. And some, I forget who else, but there was a couple of guys, 4 or 5 guys who were training at the University of Alabama for pre-draft stuff, working their tails off, running every single day. Reuben Foster comes in. I think it was a month since he had done anything. He'd been on these visits, whatever. This guy hadn't run. Reuben hadn't run or anything like that. He was taking these visits, enjoying life, whatever. Comes back in there, and I remember watching them. They're all outside in the heat. Reuben Foster just puts on his athletic stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm going to run with you guys today. And the first person on every single sprint is Reuben Foster. He is absolutely crushing it. I'm like, what the heck? A guy hasn't really trained or done anything much in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Comes out here with these guys have been doing it every single day. But when we talk about a guy who reminds you of the old school football, Reuben Foster was a guy you never wanted to be on the opposite line of the ball.
No.
He was knocking heads off left and right.
Ray Lewis type, right?
Yep, Ray Lewis type. Could give a great speech during the game if you needed to pick me up. He would fire the guys up. He was just built different. I think that, like, the Alabama culture, the first years that I was there was like the dominant years of these guys that you had that were just, you know, people want to take people's heads off out there. So that's another one. I know, again, the top 5 thing, I completely botched.
Just give us 3 and yeah.
Yeah, some other guys that really had an impact. You know, I loved being around and stuff. You know, I'll always take a lot of the things that Jalen Hurts did. Just the ability to, you know, especially if we go back to the time that he was benched for Tua. You know, you're a guy who's the starter. You've taken Alabama to a national championship your freshman year. Your second year, you're dominating as well. And then we get to the national championship game and you get benched, and the next year you find out you're not going to be the starter. I can't imagine personally. I never was put in that position, but I can't imagine being on that, just like, you know, essentially like throne and being loved by the fan base and loved by all these different people, to going to now you have to watch someone else take that position and spot. I can't imagine that feeling, but the way he handled it will always have an impact on me for the rest of my life by being just a good leader, not leaving. He didn't leave. He's not like a lot of these guys who it gets hard and just dips to the next college that wants him. Could have easily done that, but sticks around another year and continues to be a great teammate, and then comes in the SEC championship of that year that Tua started, and takes us to win the game. He had a players-only meeting, you know, when we were training after he found out the news. The media is all chirping, saying this or that. Like, again, I like to think about people who, wow, like, I hope that if I was put in that situation, I would react that kind of way. And then just, like, trying to think of some other really, like, just great memories, or guys that, like Quinn Williams, one of my best friends. I was in his wedding. Like, take Hugh, for example, just seeing his growth. You know, freshman year, he's redshirted. People are, you know, in conditioning, he's not doing a great job. He's working his tail off, but he's getting a lot of flack from these older guys in conditioning in that summer. It's really, really hard. Second year, same thing. He's like redshirted. He's like hardly playing. And then he gets an opportunity, and it was just like really fun to see a guy who, you know, who's this fun guy to be around, great person, great teammate. I remember the first thing he ever told me why he played football, because that was something that always intrigued me, is why do you play? You know, that's a great way to grow a relationship with someone, if you know why they play the sport. And Quinn Williams told me it was for his mom. You know, he lost his mom when he was younger, and just seeing a guy who, look, we probably wouldn't be put in the same position or same situation of getting to become friends if it wasn't for the sport of football. But just seeing him say that at a young age, be a guy with just love and joy and just passionate to make people happy. He's a funny guy. Getting to see him fight through the adversity, and then at the time when no one even really knew who he was at Alabama, coming out and dominating, and then seeing his success in the league is really powerful as well. And then, you know, Mac Jones, always tell the story of him. He's a great buddy of mine, came in, kind of like would throw with him and train with him, and just seeing the way he trained, and then, like, you know, the difficulties and adversities he went through to getting to the point where he led Alabama to a national championship. That's another kind of story, or just different person who I really loved playing around. But again, the list goes on and on. Every single player had an impact on me in my time at Alabama, and every single player I was happy and grateful to be around. But those are some guys that just right now off the top of my head have had some cool experiences that I've gotten to be a part of, or watch the way they do things and love to see the way they do things.
That's awesome.
That's great, man. Well, no, I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on for the guys I even think about at Alabama. That, you know, I've even come and, like, throwing the ball to Calvin Ridley at the Elite 11, like, unreal experience. One of the most elusive football players I've ever met or ever been on the same field with. But I wanted to say that Quinn Williams story reminds me of a guy, Jeremiah Owusu from Notre Dame, who now plays for the Cleveland Browns. Just the way that they know they're so talented, in that first year or two that you're kind of on, you're like, why is this guy on scout? Or, like, you see the potential in all of these guys, right? And they're so highly recruited, and they know that they're so talented, but they're just not giving everything that they can in those years because they know they should be playing or they can be playing. It's just the time wasn't right for some of these guys, right? And then guys like Quinn Williams and we call them Woo. Once they get on the scene, they dominate, and it's just like, you know, no looking back from there. And both of those guys are now dominating in the NFL. So cool story to relate to. But Mac, thanks so much. Tommy, I don't know if you had Mac. Were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, is that Wusu related to Mike Wusu, who played at Vanderbilt?
I don't think so. I think it's Owusu.
Okay.
Yeah. So different. I think different family, different bloodline. But Tommy, did you have anything else, or you want to wrap it up?
No, I think I'm good. I think I got all the questions out. My one question.
Mac, thanks so much for joining, brother. We obviously, the football world, college sports world is going to miss Coach Saban and his greatness. And I just wanted to have you on because I know how much of a fan of Alabama's program you are. And you stay connected to that program. You stay connected to the SEC. And we obviously appreciate you from a content side, from an entrepreneurship side. I see a lot of what you're doing. So I want to commend you on that front and wish you the best moving forward.
Brandon, I mean, I can't thank you enough for having me on. It's good. We got to catch up sometime. But really thank you guys for having me on. Humbled to be on here and appreciate y'all reached out. And, you know, I have to come back on. We'll have to dive into some more stuff sometime. I know I just covered surface level for a lot of this, but
yeah,
in a quick bit of time. But
next year we'll see who's running the program at Alabama, and then we can talk about if it's Dan Lanning or Dan Lanning or whoever it is. I don't think Marcus Freeman.
He just turned down Lanning. He just said he's going back to Oregon.
Really?
So,
He was already down in Tuscaloosa, right?
really.
that's what people were saying. Look, you can't trust. At the end of the day, this is almost like watching a game unfold. I'm like, look, guys, like we're freaking out. Everyone's freaking out over this. Whoever it's going to be is going to be a good coach. They're going to make the right decisions, and if not, it'll show. But at the end of the day, it's not like we can just sit here and think about who it's going to be.
Right. It's like assumptions and you're just making your brain go wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just gotta let it play
it's
out.
wild. But I did see that too, Tommy, that Dan Lanning had supposedly turned it down. So I'm curious. I'm interested. I'm excited to see who the next guy is who's willing to take that spot on. And it's a lot that comes with it. There's a big fan base for Alabama and a big community. So part of me is excited for that person. Also a little bit like, gosh, they better know what they're getting into because the Alabama football community, you can be hated, you can be loved, a little bit in between. So
As long as you win, you'll be loved.
yeah. But appreciate you guys for real having me on. I hope you all have a great day. And Brandon, we'll definitely connect sometime soon. I'm interested in your story. I've seen you crushing it and doing some great things. And,
Right on, man.
you know, so those Notre Dame quarterbacks, man. You and Deshaun Kaiser, man.
As your
Geniuses.
Tennessee
All you
buddy.
got- look, Notre Dame, just a genius school is all I can say.
Love it, bro. Thanks so much, man.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, man.
Mac.
I'll see you.
Yeah.
See you, Tommy.
Yes.